So much to talk about, so little time.
Yeah, it's
Robin,
an exciting
thank you so much
time.
for being here.
Right.
So I just want to do a quick introduction on who Robin Li is and what Baidu is. I think that the world today is a bipolar world in many senses when it comes to artificial intelligence. Most people talk about China and the US. And in that conversation, one of the main pillars of China's AI endeavors is Baidu and the incredible work that they do. So it's great to have Robin Li's perspective, a leader in this domain, as well as Baidu's perspective on the future of AI. I'd like to start with the elephant in the room, which is DeepSeek.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to specifically ask, was it expected, in your opinion? Like, did you actually think that this is going to happen, it's going to happen this fast and in this way? Or were you caught by surprise as well by what DeepSeek was able to achieve?
Basically, my view is that innovation cannot be planned. You just don't know when and where innovation comes. What you can do is just to foster an environment that is conducive to innovation. We live in a very exciting time. In the past, when we talk about Moore's Law, it's like every 18 months the performance doubles or the price halves. But today, when we talk about large language models, the inference cost basically can be reduced by more than 90% over 12 months. So this is much, much faster than the computer revolution we experienced over the past few decades. And also, I think LLM is a very large area. There are all kinds of directions that you can innovate on. For example, in the US, the OpenAIs and sources, they all race to build or to develop the most powerful large language models. But in China, because of the constraints of compute, we have to innovate to reduce the cost, both on the inference side and the training side. And fortunately, we've seen significant progress in the past year or so. For Baidu, we start from a search engine background. It's naturally very close to large language model. That's why in March of 2023, we launched the ErnieBot, which was our answer to ChatGPT. That's like 3 months after ChatGPT was launched. That's also probably the first ChatGPT-like application ever launched by a public company. And Google launched Bard later, and they renamed it to Gemini, as we know today. So it's a very exciting time. We see innovations everywhere, and we have to adjust ourselves to this kind of fast-changing innovation. But I would say that what's more important is AI application. Over the past few years, we were very excited about all kinds of improvements, technology breakthroughs. But if we look at the technology stack, it's like a pyramid in the sense that the most money is made on the silicon level, the GPUs and other kind of ASIC chips. Then on top of that, it's a cloud infrastructure, the hyperscalers or cloud service providers. And then on top of that, it's a language model. And then the application layer is at the very top. But the applications haven't made much money yet. Today, when we talk about AI native applications, ARR, or annual recurring revenue, it's probably like several 10 million or max several $100 million. But at the GPU level, you talk about tens of billions of dollars.
I think that's what everyone's talking about right now, which is how do you justify the investments? I want to actually go back to the point that you mentioned. You said that in China, we're actually trying to innovate to reduce the cost. Some people think that this is because of the restrictions on the chips, coming to China, because of the political direction.
Yeah.
But if you actually zoom out and look at the history of China, it's done that with every industry. So in cars, for example, the whole point was to take this industry, to reduce the cost, and to then build new products.
Yeah.
I think it is a way that China actually approaches technology and innovation, reducing the cost, improving the efficiency, and then trying to scale and maybe take over the market in that sense.
Yeah.
So do you think this is because of the chips, or do you think that this is how China typically approaches innovation?
Well, I think most of the innovation, not just in AI or not even just in the IT industry, I think if you look back the past few hundred years, I think most of the innovation relates to cost reduction. If you can reduce the cost by certain amount, certain percentage, then that means your productivity increases by that kind of percentage. So I think that's pretty much the nature of innovation. It's just that today it's happening at a rate much faster than before. And for companies in China, we are under certain type of constraint. So we were probably the first ones to feel the pain of those high cost. I'll give you an example in robotaxi. In the U.S. or in more developed markets, the ride-hailing price is much higher than that in China, right? So even if you have a car, that robotaxi car that costs like, let's say, $100,000, you can still make money by operating that car in a driverless fashion. But in China, the ride-hailing price is much lower. So you have to come up with a technology that costs much less in order to make sense to have a driverless operation. So we, to a certain extent, are forced to innovate to bring down the cost.
If we touch upon maybe Apollo just specifically here, in your opinion, do you think that the driverless car ecosystem in China is more advanced than what it is in the US because the regulations allowed for you to deploy, because you have certain real-life use cases that are cheap, that are cost-effective, that people are using on their day-to-day lives? Or do you think they are equal? Or do you think that, how do you compare it in both countries? If I was a government official that's sitting here in this crowd, and I wanted to choose who to partner with, how would you compare the product? How would you compare the advancement?
Yeah, I would say there are a number of technological approaches for the self-driving thing. Tesla has their own approach. They just don't want to use any sensor other than camera, and they would like to achieve full self-driving from the ADAS or advanced aided, computer-aided driving until you can reach a fully driverless stage. But for us, for our robotaxi is called Apollo Go, and for Waymo, we're taking a different approach. We would like to start from certain geographic areas, and from day one, it's operated without any driver. And I think both approaches has its merit. We just need to move faster. Wherever the regulatory environment allows, we'll just deploy the operation there. Speaking of this, I actually have a video that shows how a robotaxi is operated in China. Let's take a look.
In our city, robotaxi has become a part of life. Robotaxi.
Self-driving technology.
人工智能
Let's go.
How does Apollo go? Make people enjoy driverless rides. It answers your every call. And attends your every need.
The door is closing.
It withstands scrutiny.
Welcome to Apollo Go. Slide the screen and start your trip.
And passes all tests. It is an evolving intelligence. Humbler and safer. It caters to your interests and accompanies your exploration. It alleviates your fatigue. And takes you to the destination. Apollo Go, advancing for safety, innovating for lives.
Honestly, I think maybe we should explore next year the government summit, all the fleet to be autonomous, powered by Apollo Go.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, but you can see that the road condition is actually quite complicated, quite challenging, right? Sometimes you are cut through by a car coming from nowhere. There are motorcycles weaving through the traffic, and sometimes you have to overtake a bus in front of you. This is not imagination or some kind of futuristic vision. This is things that happens every day in some of the Chinese cities.
And realistically, if I were to deploy this technology, and I wanted to deploy it in some city, for example, around the world, how long does it take from saying, yes, let's do it, to actually deploying it and seeing it come to reality?
Technically, it takes about 2 weeks. But in order to comply with the local regulations, a typical deployment cycle is about 6 months. Most cities require us to have safety driver and to drive around the road for, I don't know, 1 or 2 months, and you get rid of the driver, but you cannot charge. Then you can start to charge. Then you can expand the areas from certain dedicated area to the whole city. That process typically takes about 6 months.
So technology readiness is 2 weeks, but regulation readiness takes 6 months. I think this is the reality of most innovation.
Right.
That governments, unfortunately, at most points of time, are not able to remove bureaucracy and red tape fast enough to allow for the technology.
Right.
I'll pivot maybe to another topic of interest, which is the risk of AI. And people that work on the frontier of AI have different views on what AI can do, what it can't do.
Yeah.
Self-driving cars are a very good application of AI.
Right.
That talks about a positive future where people can enjoy their drive and have fun, be more productive.
Yeah.
What keeps you up at night when it comes to artificial intelligence? What are you worried about?
Yeah, I worry a lot of things. First, it's a regulatory environment. Right now, as you know, that technology is already ahead of the regulatory environment. Sometimes I just think, okay, our technology is already ready, but why can't we just deploy it to a much larger scale or much wider region? And secondly, technology is improving very, very fast. Although we are already impressed with what we can achieve today, but think about 6 months from now or 2 years from now, it will become much better. Is that by Baidu or by our peers or by someone from a different industry? We just don't know. Everyone is rushing ahead and competition is also very fierce. And there are also risks associated with this kind of innovation. Although we have proven that robotaxi is much safer than human drivers, I think it's at least, as of today, it's at least 10 times safer. Every year, more than 1 billion people get killed in traffic accidents. But with robotaxi, that death rate can be reduced significantly. Also, if you look at from the insurance claims, from our operating record, our insurance claims is only like 1/14 of regular taxi or a regular driver car. But still, this is a new industry, a new area. People's tolerance on accidents are very low. So if some serious accident happens, it may drag down your technology progress. You probably have to stop the operation for a certain amount of time and find out what happened and make all the adjustments to restart the operation. So we've been very careful so that as of today, although we've been operating this for like 2-3 years on a relatively large scale, we haven't had any serious accidents involving our robotaxi.
A few weeks ago, when DeepSeek became the talk of town and the world saw what the Chinese were able to achieve with a model that is so effective, so cheap, so easy to deploy, that's open source, the stocks of many of the large chip providers and many of the large data center providers around the world dropped significantly because people thought that we might not need those investments, these eye-watering billions of dollars that are being invested in inferencing data centers, in data centers to train these AI systems and models. Do you actually think that seeing what we see and knowing what you know, that these investments are going to continue, or do you think we're going to have to look back and maybe create a new model where we build as we go, or that we innovate in that faster than we innovate in other industries? How do you see the future of data centers, of infrastructure in this domain?
Yeah, I think this is a great question, and I've been thinking about this for the past month or so. I think when you look at the fundamentals, what the overarching theme is still that the technology improves very fast. The costs are reduced by like 90% every year, and the performance becomes better and better. And when the technology is still evolves at such a rapid rate, you just cannot stop investing. You have to invest to make sure that you are at the very front of this technological innovation or revolution. So I think the investment in silicon, in computer, in cloud infrastructure is still very much required. To come up the next best model, a model that outsmarts everyone else, you have to use more compute to try all kind of different areas. Maybe at some point you find a shortcut that takes, let's say, 6 million to train a model, but you already spend like billions to figure out which way is the right way to spend like 6 million, right?
But isn't that the gambler's dilemma? I've already spent 100, and I need to take something back, so I keep spending to hopefully make back that money and beyond.
Right.
And who's going to win? You said earlier, I think this is a great point that you mentioned. The returns of these models and deploying these models economically don't make sense currently.
Right.
So is the view that at one point of time we'll be able to make the returns to justify it?
Yeah.
Is the view that maybe my model is going to be the one that's used and I'm going to win that game and make up for it?
Yeah.
What do you think the approach is?
I'm optimistic about the future of AI. I think even at the current level, large language models can already create a lot of value in all kinds of scenarios. We have like hundreds of thousands of customers who use the early large language model to improve the efficiency in areas like recruitment, e-commerce, or healthcare, or even energy, power. We've seen a lot of use cases that if in the past it cost them, let's say, $10,000 to achieve certain things, with LLMs, that only costs like $1,000 for them. So it already creates value for them. But you're right. I think we do need to worry about value creation at the application layer. If you spend, hundreds of billions of dollars at the infrastructure layer, and you just cannot come up with applications that creates, 10 times more than that, it's not going to be sustainable. So even though we've seen all kinds of use cases in all kinds of different scenarios, probably more like the to-B side. On the to-C side, the consumer side, we haven't seen a so-called super application like in the mobile internet stage, the social media, right? The daily active users in the hundreds of millions, and people spend like 2 hours a day on one app. We haven't seen opportunities like that, but I'm sure as time passes by, someone will figure this out. You will be able to create an app that's very sticky. Right now, even for ChatGPT, I think their DAU/MAU, meaning daily active user / monthly active user, is 16%. And if you look at Facebook or WeChat, it's like 90%. And the average time spent per user for the chatbot is like 10 minutes. And for the social media, it's like 100 minutes, 120 minutes. So it's still quite far away from that level of application. And I think the whole world is actually looking for this kind of super app at this stage.
I think that's a great answer. Just one final question for a minute. Open source or closed source for these models, what do you think the direction should be?
Yeah, this is something that a lot of industry experts are debating on. You have closed source players like OpenAI, Anthropic, and you have open sources like DeepSeek, Llama. It's a race. What we learned in the past few months is that it turns out that open source can help you to get more attention. If you open things up, a lot of people will be curious enough to try it, right? This will help spread the technology much faster. And because we are at the very early stage of AI, generative AI innovation, a faster spread will help increase adoption, will help more people to try the technology, therefore create a better opportunity for innovation at the application layer. So I just want to reinforce my point that what's more important is application. It's not which language model are you using. It's what kind of super app, what kind of value you can create at the application layer.
Amazing. Robin, we could have spent another hour here. Thank you so much for the answers, and thank you for your time. And I look forward to seeing you more in this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.